I just can't take it anymore. When I was 6 years old, my mom moved us out of our apartment in East 49th Street out to this little red cottage out in Hartsdale. And one bedroom and white twin trim. It was this bucolic place. It was a huge change for me. I had to switch out asphalt playgrounds for this lush lawn. But the coolest part? We got a car. And I got to sit in the front seat. No airbags, no child seat, just me in that front seat of that Volvo 940 Charger. I love that thing. And the coolest part of that car was the speedometer. See, it wasn't just a regular dial speedometer. No, it had this ribbon of safety orange tape that would slip across the dashboard, tell you how fast you were going. It's awesome. And I remember looking at that tape slide across the dashboard really fast as we were driving behind the supermarket, right toward a brick wall. My mother was screaming, "I just can't take it anymore!" And that's what it was like growing up with my mom. A lot of you are probably thinking that she was a horrible mother by me saying that, but that couldn't be farther from the truth. The truth is she was wonderful. She was caring and loving. She spent time with me and she laughed with me. She always made sure I had what I needed. It's just that every once in a while something would shift and it would go horribly wrong. It was terrifying. And that's really what life was like with my mom up until my 30s. That's what normal was like. But it was the kind of normal that I knew wasn't really normal. And that went on. These periods of wonderful relatedness punctuated by these periods of terror until one point I couldn't take it anymore. So I reached out to my friend Alice. She's a professor of clinical psychology. And I told her my story with my mom, probably the first time I'd ever confided about that relationship. And she recognized some patterns. She had me read some articles. And it was like I saw the world from a new place. It was clear that my mom had a condition called borderline personality disorder. I don't know if any of you are familiar with that particular disorder, but it's a particularly insidious mental disorder, where the person who has it believes on some core level that they are broken due to some sort of psychological trauma. And when that part of them that is broken is either brushed up against or acknowledged, they lash out viciously. But learning of this diagnosis changed everything. I no longer needed to react to my mother when she would attack, because it was just merely a symptom of this disorder she had. It wasn't personal. It wasn't even voluntary. Something would touch that part of her which is tender and broken, and she would lash out, as simple as that. And when she did, I would just recognize it as a symptom of her disorder. I would step aside, and I would just say, "I'm sorry you feel this way. What's going on? Well, do you want to talk about it?" And everything would shift. And this went on for some time, and it was really great. And one night, something happened that led me to a really remarkable realization. My daughter was spending the night at a friend's house, and my wife and I had a romantic evening planned. We're going to take a candlelit bath, and I was pretty excited. But out of nowhere, we got into this raging fight. Yeah. 1 minute, candlelit bath, the next, raging fight. I was blindsided, I was hurt, I was disappointed, I was angry, I was embarrassed. And when we went back to deconstruct what had happened, I learned that my wife, Stacy, was feeling self-conscious. And I, in a moment of stupidity or insensitivity, said something crass that pushed up against that part of her that was self-conscious. And she just reacted. And then I realized, wait a second, that wasn't personal either. Stacy was backed up against a wall, and I touched something tender, and I mishandled it. And she lashed out. It was a reaction, but it wasn't personal. Everything changed for me. If that was a reaction, I thought, what if Could it be possible that our normal state as human beings is one of deep connection and relation? And if that is the case, could it also be that all behavior to the contrary, all behavior that takes us out of that sense of relation and connection is a symptom of some sort of dis-ease, a symptom that something has gone wrong? This was a remarkable realization for me. And it's something that I've called radical empathy. And it's a concept that I've been experimenting with, and it has yielded tremendous results. When my wife and I are in an argument, and she says something upsetting, and I'm able to respond with, "This isn't like you. Are you okay? Is something wrong?" Everything shifts. I have a 12-year-old daughter, and you might have heard that they are at times volatile. But being able to use the words, "Hey, I know you don't mean to speak to me that way. What's going on?" It shifts everything. It allows her to see me in a moment where she's forgot as a human, and allows me to remember that she's just a girl going through things that I can't understand. At work, when a client speaks to me in a crass or harsh way, I'm able to remember that they're facing pressures and upsets and disappointments that I have no view into. And it allows me, in that stressful moment, to be empathetic. You know those people on the subway who stand in front of the door? They're not trying to drive us crazy personally. But they're coming from, or they're going to a place that makes them feel small and insignificant. And in that feeling of smallness, they lose their ability to connect with other people. So practicing radical empathy is not easy. It calls on us to deploy a sense of self-awareness. That we understand how fear and shock and anger manifest in our bodies. That we recognize that sense of tightness in my chest, it's a sign that I need to slow down, and I need to pay attention, and I need to be curious. I need to wonder what would have someone step out of their normal place. It calls on me to be curious. Because it doesn't call on us to divorce ourselves from our emotions. That's not possible. But rather, when we acknowledge the state of our emotion, and we acknowledge it, we're able to see beyond our emotion. We're able to be in a different place and not become our emotion. Radical empathy calls on us to deploy a sense of curiosity and wonder in combative situations. It calls on us to wonder what is going on with that individual. What would cause them to step out of our normal state of relation and into this space of anger and frustration? And when we recognize the state of another human being, we're able to see them as a whole person. Not just the part of them that's acting out, but a complete person. And when we're able to do that, we're able to empathize with their situation and move things to a different place. It's also critical that we recognize that radical empathy is a practice. We will fail. We are human, and we will respond to angry comments with an angry comment. We will respond to pettiness with pettiness. And when we do so, it's critical that we show empathy for ourselves, that we have an understanding of our own condition, our own emotional state that allowed us to step out of that place of connection and into that place of anger. And when we do, and when we have forgiveness for ourselves, we are able to remember who we really are, beings that are profoundly and deeply connected to one another. After all, let's think about what's possible for ourselves, what's possible for our families, for our neighbors, for the people we love, what's possible for the world. That if in their worst moments, we are able to remain at our best. In the end, it is those of us who receive aggression who have the ability to alter the outcome. See, the person who is doing the attacking, they've already lost control. But when we view them as a whole person and we recognize our connection to them, we're able to respond in a way that moves things forward. Thank you very much.